Welcome back, everybody, to the Blazer Victory Podcast. This is John Duncan, and I'm joined, as always, with my co-host Darian Smith. And Darian, we got a game week again. Week number 2 in store, and we're gonna get into it a little bit. But I got a feeling this might be a revenge game for our UAB after what Liberty came in and did in our home opener Protective last year.
Yeah, you know the players got this game circled on their calendar. They got, I mean, come on, man. They did this opening up our stadium. Disrespectful. You ain't got the big bad bully Malik Willis here. I know they feeling it. I was just thinking I know when the sun when our show come on, I was like, man, we need like a wrestling music intro, like
we do. Yes.
Something like that. But yeah, that's just off topic. I'm sorry, guys. But yeah, I'm pretty sure this is a revenge game for the guys, but I'm pretty sure Liberty will be ready for us. They know that. They're not stupid, so they're gonna be ready for us.
Exactly. And hey, we've got a great interview once we finish doing our preview from John Manson from A Sea of Red. You guys might remember him from last year. We had him on previewing the matchup with Liberty last October. We were fortunate that John took out some time, a little longer than expected, but he was very, very informative as always. Guys, go to aseaofred.com or just follow them on Twitter at A Sea of Red. Great Liberty content just throughout the whole year, and a great, just resource for Blazer fans heading into this matchup. I know I've got a piece that I helped out with, just their view of from the other side, from the opponent's view. I was able to help out with their article. Darian and I will both be on their podcast, the A Sea of Red podcast, Tuesday night. So you're probably listening to this Tuesday morning. I believe it starts around 8 p.m. Central Time, or we're slated to go on around 8 o'clock. So guys, definitely go to A Sea of Red on Twitter, and you'll be able to see that because they broadcast it on Twitter. But before we get into our Liberty discussion, first and foremost, if you have not bought a Blazer Victory Podcast t-shirt or hoodie, go ahead and go to www.storefrontier.com/blazerpod and go ahead and get you a shirt, a short sleeve shirt, a long sleeve shirt, and a hoodie. And that just helps support the Blazer Victory Podcast and helps us. And it also just helps spread the word about the podcast, because people see the shirt or the hoodie and they're like, what is that? There's a UAB podcast. So definitely help us out.
And listen, it's like the cool thing. If you don't want your kid to be picked on at school, get them a t-shirt. If you want your coworkers to like you and talk to you and think you're so cool, get a Blazer Victory t-shirt. I promise you, it works every time, man. Just trust me, bro.
There you go. Well, before Liberty, I did, so we did the instant reaction show last, on Thursday night, Darren, where we just instantly reacted to the Alabama A&M game, which we did get a lot of good feedback on. I think people really liked the instant reaction versus the next day. Now, the only drawback on that is that we're unable to, kind of nerd out and actually rewatch the whole game and, kind of see stuff that we might have missed being at the game or the first time watching it. And I believe you had something to bring up about the offensive line from the Alabama A&M game. Is that right, Darian?
Right, yeah. So just seeing, when you in person, you in the game, you talking, it's just the view. It's a lot different from watching it on TV or on the computer and actually getting the rewind and seeing the full picture and blah blah blah. You know how that is. But our offensive line they were really good. When I look back at it, we are very physical offensive line. We are very sound. I do think I came away from questions at right guard a little bit.
Yes.
With saying that, I know we got a transfer from JUCO, Quincy McGee. He was starting at right guard. And for what it's worth, Zarion Hayes, number 4 for Appalachian. He was transferred from Appalachian State.
From App, yeah.
He was on A&M. Yeah, the guy's a good player. I know they didn't have a good defense or whatever, but you can always find something buried underneath all of the mud and the dirtiness, and he was that guy. He's a legit starter on a lot of D1 FBS programs. That guy was good, and a lot of times they were able to slant him or get him matched up, and he was able to use his quickness, against our right guard. And I think it may, just looking back at it, I think it may have caught him off guard because he didn't per se get physically dominated there.
Right.
It was just a move here, was a slant here. It was a quickness, like he was just very quick to get to his spots. And I think it just caught Quincy off guard sometimes. So I know the weeks, between week 1 and 2 are the areas where you get to improve the most. So I'll be looking forward to him really improving and learning. A lot of times it seems like, he'll be stepping right to get to do a zone stretch play or something like that. And Zarian Hayes, number 4, he'll slant in. He's so quick and elusive. If you don't have your head up and be ready for those type of moves, it'll catch you off guard. As an offensive lineman, I know, and he was just able to get him a couple times in the game. So oh yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, no, not to interrupt, but like I've seen him in practice, like he looks so good. And honestly, man, that first game, like, maybe you got some jitters and, it's a real game. Yeah, it's Alabama A&M, but it's, a real game, first game of the season. Like maybe there's some jitters, you know what I'm saying? Like, and we expect it to get better. We're not saying this, thinking that McGee's not going to get it together. We do think it, will get better. And I think you'll see improvement, hopefully this week against Liberty.
Exactly, and for the sake of it, I'm gonna make this clear. I think this was the best player on their team.
Yeah, by far, dude.
By far, offensively, defensively, special teams. Number 4 stood out. So I'm not. This is no way to like slight Quincy, And like I said, week 1, week 2, this is first time start. He was his first time starting. I think it was great for him to be able to see things. To get matched up against the best player and be able to take some L's in the game, Now, let's be clear. He did not get beat every play.
No.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that if I was judging this war for the whole game, I would say Zarian was able to get the best of the whole fight. I would say that, but it was back and forth. But I'm looking forward to the improvement. I know I was a little tough on the quarterbacks, too. I was saying that the timing was off and da-da-da. But after watching the game, our quarterbacks was probably only a handful of plays. I was like, but our quarterbacks were really good. The other guy, I want to see Tajon Palmer be more consistent. He dropped a couple balls, especially in the beginning. I want to see him be, because if you get the ball in his hands and you let him go, he can go. So other than that, it was kind of hard to find anything that our team was doing that was. Everybody else pretty much dominated we got speed at linebackers and our D-line in the interior. After watching it again, I kept on saying instantly, it seemed like they were very, very stout. It was even better. Isaiah Forte and your boy Fish McWilliams.
I'm telling you, man, Fish is still like, I think he's going to be the defensive player of the year for UAB. Like, I think, just seeing him step up, and he had a heck of a game Thursday night. But yeah, definitely glad you brought up Forte, because he looks a lot better this year. Kind of slimmed down a little bit, but still got that muscle, looking good. One correction I do want to bring up from the instant reaction that we did. I said on the podcast that Tyler Taylor was the guy that hit a guy late out of bounds, and we got a 15-yard penalty. That was actually Starling Thomas. Kind of a no-no. He kind of just shoved him super late, and of course, the second guy always gets caught. So, of course, the flag was immediately, thrown out from the official.
Yeah.
But really, that, I think, was the only kind of, like, bad penalty UAB had. Because, we discussed the 2 targetings, but those weren't targetings, and they were both overruled or reversed. But other than that, I think we hit on everything from the A&M game. Oh, fantastic crowd. I meant to bring that up Thursday night. I think we had over 32,000. Just an overall great atmosphere. Now, I can still hear the A&M band playing in my head still to this day.
Awesome, man. They were awesome.
I'm telling you, man. But, yeah, just overall great atmosphere, and definitely look forward to 2 weeks from now and having the second home game against Georgia Southern, and hope we can get another awesome crowd out. Enjoyed it. But, yeah, let's go ahead and jump into this Liberty game. So, the first thing that I put on our agenda for this show, Darian, is Liberty a revenge game. And that seems kind of dumb to put that in the notes for us to have a conversation, but I think we're on the same page. I think the players and coaches are on the same page. This is a revenge game. This is a game that the players, coaching staff, fans, of course, that we have been circling on our calendar since that opening game in October in Protective Stadium last year. Like, yes, it's a revenge game, and thank goodness they don't have Malik Willis on that team anymore.
Superman.
Man.
I think we're gonna go in there to make a statement. I don't think we're just going in there just to win. I
Right.
think we were embarrassed. We were way better than that team we showed that day.
Mm-hmm.
And I think overall the team is better this year, just in general. But I think we were going in there to make a statement to show them that we not those people, and this ain't that. This ain't a team that you think you can just bully and walk over. Malik Willis really bullied us, and
Yes,
kind of followed suit. But yeah, that ain't us, man.
definitely agree. Well, Liberty faced Southern Miss this past Saturday, and they won 29-27 in quadruple overtime. Yes, I said that correctly. It was 4 overtimes in that game, and Liberty squeaked out of Hattiesburg with the win. Now, I mean, that very well could have went Southern Miss's way. Both teams had multiple opportunities to kind of put the game away, and it was the first game of the season, so both teams kind of made mistakes. Turned the ball over. Both teams turned the ball over a lot. I believe Southern Miss forced. I had it on my stats, but there was a lot of turnovers. I think there was 5 turnovers on one side, 3 turnovers on the other side. Both teams just kind of. I mean, it was kind of what you expect. A sloppy first game to the season. But give Liberty credit. They were able to pull the W out 29-27 over Southern Miss. But that being said, I don't know, man. Just looking at, and I was able to rewatch most of that game Sunday afternoon. Darian, I like our chances, man. And this isn't trying to sound homerish or anything, but you look at what Southern Miss was able to do on the ground against that Liberty defense, and the Liberty defensive line is supposed to be the strength of that team. Like, man, if they're rushing for over 250 yards, if Southern Miss is doing that, and we all know how one-dimensional Southern Miss is. I mean,
Right.
the poor quarterback got hurt again on the first in the first game, and basically Frank Gore was back there the whole time doing a wing T, one-dimensional offense. But if he's able to do that, we've got to like our chances with Debo, hopefully coming back this Saturday from his illness, and Jermaine Skull Brown and all the guys we have in the backfield. Like, I think we should be good come Saturday.
Yeah, man, that was the first thing, because we actually have a quarterback that can keep you honest.
Yes, exactly.
And we got guys that'll take the top off of you. We got some guys that you put the ball in their hands in space. They can do things, so you can't just load up like that. But I honestly think, looking at Southern Miss, I think their offensive line was much improved. I think they were more physical now. After speaking with John, I do think that D line is good, but I don't think they're physical. I think they are finesse. I think if you drop back and you're a passing team, I think they can get after you.
Right.
But I don't think they're physical. I don't think their front seven was very physical. So we have a very physical offensive line, and we have some very physical running backs. So it was kind of like, when Frank Gore, what you was alluding to, they got in that power back. They could not really tackle him.
They couldn't, man. So many missed tackles. Yeah.
He got in one-on-one situations, and he almost won every time. They had to bottle him up, but I think their DBs were good. I think their defensive backfield is good for what it's worth. I mean, you can pop plays on them, but you can't every defensive backfield.
Right.
I think their defensive line is good in certain areas, in passing situations, honestly. And they can make plays and run and stuff. I do think if I was to point out a weakness on that team, I think their weakness was at linebacker.
Yeah.
Because once they got, like I said, I repeat, once they got run-on-one with Frank Gore and any of the other playmakers, a lot of times those guys were able to pop one on them. Versus, like, from what I saw, our team against A&M, we got guys down on the ground. Like,
exactly.
We got Damian Miller and all these Noah Wilder. They was rocking guys, So, man, it kind of got my juices flowing. I think we'll have Debo back. I think we'll have Kadeem Telford back. You got Debo and Skull. I like our chances, man. With our offensive line, Trey Hearn and them boys.
Hey, I agree, man. And hey, if they thought Southern Miss was a physical offense, just wait until they roll out Saturday night and see UAB's offense, man. Like, I cannot wait to see it. And I mean, I'm just looking forward to it. And hey, we are going to learn a lot about this UAB team come Saturday night. Win or lose, whatever happens, we are going to learn so much about this team. Like, Yes, we had the Alabama A&M game. Yes, we won 59-0, but you really can't take a whole lot from that game. Just knowing how bad Alabama A&M is. So we're going to learn a lot about this UAB team. And
I
go
think
ahead.
this game is an opportunity to you said you was talking about learning ourselves. I think it's a chance to establish an identity.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah, what are we? Are we the the Bill Clark pounded, conservative type of team, or can we mix it up on you? Like, or can we just are we the bullies?
That's what I say. Like, I think we can be the bully. Like, we can pound it on you, but hey, if you start loading that box up, we're gonna pick you apart deep. We've proven, hey, Bryce Davis, man, seeing that guy at tight end in practice, that and getting that touchdown, and then Terrell McDonald. When we came into the season saying, okay, well, obviously we've got to replace Hayden Pittman, Garrett Prance, of course, two legendary tight ends for the UAB football program. I think we got some dudes there. I mean, you go back and put that film on from the Alabama A&M game, and yes, it's Alabama A&M again. But I mean, you see that the speed and elusiveness that Davis put on that touchdown, which is a great throw from Dylan. And you look at that catch Terrell McDonald had in the end zone. Like, I think we are ready to kind of prove ourselves. I would say to the world, but unfortunately, this game is going to be on ESPN Plus. But whoever's watching the game, and people are going to see that box score the next morning, and they're going to put UAB on notice. And John mentions it in the interview that we had with him. He even said, this is a top 25 UAB team, that Liberty expects to come into Lynchburg this Saturday night. So I think this is a great chance for UAB to prove themselves. And what I've said before in past episodes, this is the most important non-conference game on UAB's schedule. And yes, I know we got to go to LSU. And speaking of LSU, man, Sunday night. but anyways, hey, and you've got Georgia Southern next week, which in 2 weeks. Sorry, that's not going to be easy. But this game right here, if you can come out of Lynchburg with a win and go 2-0 heading into that Georgia Southern game next week, I mean, Bryant Vincent is going to be ecstatic, and you're going to really see, not just local media, but you're going to see national media kind of take notice of this UAB program. Exactly. Join the bandwagon. Jump on the bandwagon.
I think this is the litmus test, because it's where it's scheduled, where we have them in the second week, and it's still a lot of people are high on us, but they don't know.
Exactly.
A lot of people are still high on Liberty, but they kind of got some questions answered, but they kind of didn't in a way because of, Southern Miss's quarterback situation. And unfortunately, what happened, even though I do know that Southern Miss team was a lot improved, much improved team. They looked a lot better, but they still wasn't able to answer all the questions because of the situation. But
exactly.
So now, I was gonna ask you. I know you mentioned Bryce Davis. I was gonna ask you your question. On the guys that you came impressed with on offense and defense from our side, on our side. But you already named out my guys, so let's get into it. Bryce Davis, man. When I went back and rewatched that film,
dude, like
he is fluid. He is very fluid. I saw him run that route. I'm like, oh, this dude's 6'2", 230. But it was his understanding of the offense and his understanding of angles. Blowing people up on blocks, like the way he knew what to do, and he knew how he went and did it. It was no questions about it. He went fast, and everything he did, he looked confident. He ran everything fast. He was spot on with blocks. I mean, I was like, man, we got it.
Darian,
I love this guy.
How in the world did Marshall not offer him?
No idea.
And nobody, UAB was one of his only, he had a couple other offers, but I think we were his only D1 offer. If I'm not, somebody please correct me, but my goodness, dude. But that just isn't, for Bill Clark, finding those diamonds in the rough, you're finding those guys that are not really highly recruited and being able to fit. And now, Bryant Vincent already, we've mentioned before, taking off with recruiting. I just love it, man. He's not Hayden Pittman or Garrett Prance, but can he get there? Yes.
Exactly.
You see it. And no, go ahead.
Because guess who else wasn't highly recruited? Garrett Prance. Garrett Prance wasn't highly recruited. Guess who else? Skull Brown. Guess who else? Spencer Brown. I can go down the list with these type of guys on our team. But when they get into our culture, we have this culture of building players up. We redshirt them. They kind of wait some time by the time they get on the field, unless they just come out and impress right off the bat. It takes some development and work to get on the field.
Right.
That's the kind of culture we create. So by the time some other team is trying to recruit a freshman to come in and play right away, and they need that talent, we got guys just cooking and marinating and getting better and getting better. And so we seem to recognize that, like, we seem to be very much a staff of development.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm a player, I want the players that I hope it's a high school player listening somewhere. If I'm a player and I'm thinking about where to go, just know that if you go to UAB, you got a good chance of being developed.
Yes.
Even if you play right away, you develop a lot. A lot of these guys, they bodies, they turn into different players year two, and here, this is what we do. So I think that's what Bryce has done. He was here last year. He didn't get to play much, but now he's put in that position. And
right.
he became, looking back on TV. And what's funny is they fell in love with him too.
Yes.
him and Damian Miller.
Yeah.
Wasn't Damian everywhere on defense, right? Just hitting everything, pouncing on punt blocks for touchdowns, knocking quarterback helmet off and all of that. So yeah, man, I think we just found a gem. It's one of my new favorite players.
I think so too. And hey, we got to give a shout out to Brody Dalton too. I mean, that he looked good, coming in. I think in the second half of the game, made a couple good catches. It was good seeing on the TV broadcast. You were able to see that all that hair in his helmet. Like, I think the broadcast was like, "How can he see?"
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
No, definitely. So it was great to see. But Darian, anything else we want to hit on? We're at 22 minutes now. We've got a great interview with John Manson. But is there anything else we want to talk about Liberty before we roll the interview?
Yeah. So what I just want to see about, so I know we're gonna talk about, and you're gonna hear about their quarterback, the quarterback situation they have with Caden Salter. But I just wanted to put, because I watched, I know you watched some film, and I watched some film on him, and of course, Charlie Brewer got hurt, and they brought in their backup, and they didn't like him. They brought in Salter, and Salter moved the ball. He was able to move it, but this is just my opinion. Does he have talent? Of course, he has talent. Here's a guy he will run it, he will move around, he's mobile, and he has an arm, he can throw it. Almost all the passes I saw him complete, he was out of the pocket and it had to be moved. Yep. I know you noticed the same thing. It was like he wasn't comfortable until he kind of knew where the guys were at. My game, what I'm looking forward to, what I would do is I would blitz him and send guys at him and make him I think the biggest thing that our defense is going to be challenged with him, because we're going to assume that he's the starter.
Yeah.
I think our biggest challenge is discipline.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think he's looking for a lane to escape out of, whether that's running or throwing. Mm-hmm. He wants to get out, because he'll tell you in our interview that he's very raw. He's talented, but he's very raw. He would have to beat me from the pocket, either blitz him, or I'm gonna rush 3 or 4 guys with a spy, and we're gonna contain you. We're gonna muck rush you. Muck rush is when you pressure the quarterback, but you're not getting outside your lanes. It's like almost 4 bull rushes, just kind of waiting for him to try to run outside.
Got you.
I think if we muck rush him and just kind of be disciplined on our lanes, he's gonna look for lanes to run the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, whether that's escaping the pocket to throw it or run it, he's looking to get out of the pocket. And if we can just make him beat us from the pocket all game, I think he'll make mistakes. Make him be consistent. Don't give him those explosive plays. Don't give him those 39. I escaped out the pocket for a 12-yard game running the ball. Southern Miss did that. Southern Miss would stop him, and then he would do something outside the pocket, throw the ball, 18-yard game, something like that. You can tell it was deflating for him. You play with Michael Vick on Madden, before,
right?
You just kind of run around and throw the ball. That is exactly. I was like, this dude is Mike Vick from Madden. He's just throwing the ball. He's just running out. He's just running around. It's like backyard football. But it worked, because it bought time for the receivers, and he got away from the pressure, and it made him more comfortable.
Right.
Make him uncomfortable. Make him beat you from the pocket. Blitz him, but just stay disciplined. That's what I would say. Stay disciplined. Stay in your lanes. Don't try to be a hero. This is not a pocket passer. Don't try to be a hero and put a move on and go inside. He's gonna spot that, and he's gonna break contain if you do that. But
Right.
he will make mistakes. He will throw in. He's young. He will throw interceptions, make him uncomfortable. And if we do that, and we go up, just kind of like we did A&M, and we go up and we start running the ball because we are more physical than they are,
It's over, man.
it's over, man. We won't play into their strengths of pass rushing. I think they got good DBs, so I don't want to just be in a passing match with them.
Mm-mm.
I want us to run the ball like we know how to run the ball, and then we can force him into those mistakes. And I think that'll be game, man. I like our chances.
100% agree with you, Darian. Now, before we roll the interview, I guess we need to give our predictions of the game. You want to give yours? Score prediction?
Okay, I will go. Now this is assuming the game goes how we say that let's say our guys are disciplined and we run the ball, and then we take the top off of them a couple times. Trey Sharpshire is healthy. Debo is back and everything. I do think we have a chance to win this by 2 touchdowns and a field goal.
Okay.
So I would say maybe 31-14.
Nice. I like it. Now I've got it. I've got it a lot closer, and the reason why I've got it a lot closer is I do think UAB is going to be able to jump on this team, get a little comfortable lead, but I think Liberty will creep in the fourth quarter and make it a good game. But I've got UAB coming out on top, 28-24. So I kind of envision something like UAB coming out maybe 21-3 or 7 or something like that, and just kind of coasting, and then Liberty kind of makes it a game late in the fourth quarter. So 28-24. Hope I'm wrong. I hope Darian is right. I'm hoping for your prediction, man, and I can certainly see that happening. With this UAB team.
The main reason I do that, I wholeheartedly believe Southern Miss should have won that game.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean,
Southern Miss did whatever they could to give that game away. Whether it was turnovers in that red zone, whether it was penalties to keep Liberty on the field, that game shouldn't have never went to overtime. From what I saw, yeah. I was like, my God, they just give it to them then. Like, why are you guys finding ways to lose this game? Southern Miss shouldn't have lost that game. I felt like Southern Miss was the more physical team. I don't know if they were the more talented team, but I think the physicalness was the key to it all, and they just kept pounding and kept pounding.
Right.
And for somehow, some way, they didn't come out with the win. They had 5 turnovers, a lot of them in the first half, and they had a lot of penalties. And I think Liberty was able to. They gave them enough chances, and Liberty is too talented to give them any challenge. Give them that many chances. So if we don't give them those chances, we don't make boneheaded plays, and we have an experienced team. I think our team is more physical. I think we should have we could dominate, but we're going to be in Lynchburg, and they have talented guys on that team. Number 3, their receiver.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Demario Douglas, yeah.
Mario Douglas, oh yeah, he can make plays, man. And that quarterback, he can make some plays. If we're not disciplined, he will make us pay. And we can lose that game if we're not a disciplined, sound team. If we don't stay true to our keys, they're gonna take advantage of it.
Definitely.
Yeah, I can definitely see a scenario where we lose if we don't take this team serious enough, and we're not locked in.
It's a road game, man. I mean, and it's the first road game of the season. Bryant Vincent's first road game as a head coach. So I mean, I think he'll have the guys ready, just like he did last Thursday.
Right.
But hey, you never know. That's why they play the game.
This ain't Alabama A&M.
No, definitely not. I mean, Liberty, hey, they recruit well. Hugh Freeze, not even going to say anything that you guys don't already know. Great coach. I mean, like I said, they recruit well. They've always had talent there under Hugh Freeze. But hey, we all remember what happened last year, 36-12, spoiling our home opener in Protective Stadium. It's time to get revenge. It's time to go up to Lynchburg and just ruin their parade, whatever they got going on.
Let's get them, man.
Yes. Well, hey, guys, we're going to go ahead and roll the interview that we had with John Manson. Again, give A Sea of Red a follow on Twitter at A Sea of Red, or go to aseaofred.com. Get your Blazer Victory Podcast t-shirts or hoodies. And if you're not already, go ahead and subscribe to the Blazer Victory Podcast, whatever you're listening to us on right now, whether that's YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Give us a 5-star review if you love the show. And without further ado, we'll go ahead and roll our interview with John Manson. All right. Well, welcome back, everybody, to the Blazer Victory Podcast, where we are pleased to be joined by John Manson, who is the founder of A Sea of Red. And, you know, John, as I was just telling you before we started recording, you guys do a great job just covering Liberty football, basketball, really all athletics for Liberty University. And, you know, this is your second time on the podcast. So how's everything going?
Doing good, John Darian. Thanks for having me on. Looking forward to talking with you guys and reconnecting after last year. Had a good time chopping it up with you, and looking to do it again. You guys do a great job too with your podcast. Enjoy following you guys on social too. It's fun times. You guys do a good job. Too bad we won't be both be Conference USA partners next year, but congrats to you guys on getting to the AAC. That's big.
Well, we appreciate that, John, and, you know, congrats to you guys on getting into Conference USA. I think, you know, it's really just great for both programs. You know, Liberty, you know, able to get into Conference USA, and, you know, UAB able to get into the AAC, and just look forward to, you know, seeing Liberty dominate Conference USA. To be honest, that's what I see going forward in the near future, and hopefully, you know, UAB competing at the top at the AAC next year and going forward. But guys, definitely, if you are not following A Sea of Red, go ahead and give them a follow at Twitter. It's at A Sea of Red, and you can also give John a follow at JC Manson, Manson. Well, John, let's just go ahead and crack into it, man. So it's obviously a little different than last year. You know, this year, both teams playing so early in the season, only really having one game of film to, you know, look at for both teams. But that one game for Liberty, and I know you went to Hattiesburg, because, you know, that's a long drive from Lynchburg all the way down to Hattiesburg. But, I mean, that, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but that was the longest game in Liberty program history, you know, going 4 overtimes in Hattiesburg. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is correct. 4 overtimes, longest in school history. I think there was 2 previous triple overtime games, but nothing that had gone 4 overtimes. So the game actually went by pretty quickly as far as time. It started at 6 o'clock Central. I think it was over certainly by 10, and going to 4 overtimes. That's quite a feat to get over in 4 hours. But yeah, man, I mean, you know, there's a lot of new faces on this Liberty team this year, a lot of transfers, and there's a lot of question marks, and I'm not sure if we got answers to those, or we have more questions than we did a week ago. But
right.
It'll be interesting to see how this team does this year, and definitely, you know, with Malik Willis gone, and with the Tennessee Titans as the backup there, the Tannehill, it's a new look, and it'll be interesting to see how this team takes shape this year.
Well, just real quick on that, John. So with Malik Willis being gone, and, you know, you only bring back about 4 starters on that defensive side of the ball. I mean, what are fan expectations? I mean, for this 22 season. I mean, you know, you've had one game, and you said there might be more questions than answers right now. But what are the fan expectations right now for Liberty that you see, you know, from fans reading A Sea of Red and listening to your podcast? What kind of vibes are you getting right now?
Well, I mean, entering this season, people had expectations as high as it ever been. I mean, Coach Hugh Freeze, he's done a great job recruiting. He's going into his 4th year with the program, and the recruiting classes that keep getting better each and every year. So despite losing Malik and some of the others that were on the team last year and the last few years kind of led the way, there's still lots of proven pieces on both sides of the ball, and some guys that, you know, were playing backup spots the last year or two, and now they're stepping into more prominent roles, and some transfers that have come in and had some good performances there Saturday night down in Hattiesburg. And you know, so expectations are still high. Now, you know, being an independent, as you guys know, it's you know, it's different. Your schedules vary so much from year to year, and this is probably, I shouldn't say probably, this is the toughest schedule Liberty's ever played. I don't think there's any question about that. I mean, you got games against, you know, Wake Forest, Arkansas, BYU, Virginia Tech, obviously UAB this coming weekend, Southern Miss, who I don't think is a pushover. I think, as you guys watch them this year. They're better than they were last year, in my opinion. They'll win more than 3 games. I don't know if they get to bowl eligibility, depending on how their quarterback play out, but they'll win 4, 5, 6 games this year. So it's definitely a challenge. It's got Old Dominion's on the schedule. They beat Virginia Tech. So it's going to be a tough draw this year. But I think expectations are, to get back to a 4th straight bowl game, certainly win 6 games. And I think a lot of people were thinking, 7 or 8 wins is probably what would be a realistic expectation. And of course, everything kind of flipped on its head in the middle of the game. And people were thinking, oh no, it's going to be a rebuilding season when Charlie Brewer went out with a broken right hand, and he'll be out, as you guys I'm sure have seen it and talked about, 6 to 8 weeks. And Jonathan Bennett came in, who was backup to Malik last year and the backup again this year, and he really struggled. I mean, the offense, if any of you have watched any of that game, the offense did not move the ball well. There was it was just dead on the sidelines. There wasn't a lot of energy. And then in the fourth quarter, Coach Freeze brought in Caden Salter, a redshirt freshman who was at Tennessee and transferred in a year ago. And, he's a 4-star recruit out of high school, one of the top prospects in the country, and a lot of talent, obviously, but it's still raw. And if you go back if those of you listening, if go back and look on ESPN Plus at the 4th quarter of that Liberty Southern Miss game, and you'll see the talent that Salter has. He wears 7, same number as Malik did last year. So similar type players. Malik would get out in open field and he'd lower his shoulder and run you over or try to. And Salter's not quite got that frame at this point in time. Just 19-year-old kid. He's not, that 23-year-old veteran, but he's able to get out there and make plays with his legs and with his arm, and he was 3rd on the depth chart going into the game last week, and got thrown into the fire with the team trailing by a touchdown in the 4th quarter, and led 2 touchdown drives to tie the game both times, including the final time in the last 2 minutes of the game to send it to overtime, and so it was a gutsy performance by him, and I'm assuming he'll be the starter again this week. Coach Freeze did not officially name him that, but I'm sure that's just a little bit of cat and mouse type games playing with UAB this week. But looking to see Salter out there again Saturday night.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, because my next question was going to be, do you anticipate seeing Salter, the freshman, as the starter heading into this UAB game? Because if you go back to last year, Bennett got in a little bit towards the end of that UAB game. Now, the game was well out of hand, but he got in a little bit. But I guess when fall camp at Liberty, was Charlie Brewer kind of like the clear go-ahead number 1, or was, Salter and Brewer kind of fighting it out, for that number 1 spot?
Yeah, in my opinion, and based on what I had heard, Brewer was kind of the odds-on favorite. Coming in, transferred from Utah, obviously, and was at Baylor the first part of his career. This is a guy that has thrown for over 10,000 yards in his career at the FBS level, playing in the Big 12 and Pac-12. So he's an experienced guy, and you put him in a quarterback room with 3 other guys that he was competing with this summer, and none of them had any starts, or still don't. Even as we go in this week, someone will make their first career start on Saturday. So there's not a lot of experience. Yeah, Bennett played some last year, but again, he's playing when the games were well in hand, or there was a game or two where Malik might have gotten knocked out for 2 or 3 drives and he would step in for him. Yeah, what I think about Jonathan Bennett, he's a Liberty guy. He was recruited by Turner Gill, a previous head coach, and stayed true to his commitment and signed with Coach Freeze and has been there ever since. And so he's in his 4th year in his program, so he knows the system. But, to be honest, he's, a typical backup quarterback. He's a guy that you can trust and count on to go in there for a drive or 2, a quarter or 2, and kind of keep the ship steady. But to be honest, I don't think he's the guy that, you want to be your starter for 7 or 8 weeks if you got a guy out for a long period of time. And I think that's going to end up happening. I wouldn't be shocked if both Bennett and Salter play some. And the reason why I say that is because, kind of going back to what I was talking about earlier, Salter is, he's young. That was really his first time playing. He played in a game against UMass when it was like 50-0 in the fourth quarter for like 2 drives last year. But, he redshirted. And I think all along he was either going to be Bennett or Brewer as a starter as training camp kind of got going on. So he was basically third on the depth chart. And you only have so many reps in practice to go around. So he just wasn't getting the reps. And that was one thing Coach Freeze was talking about in his press conference on Monday was, he just has to prepare like it's his job now and take it seriously. Not that he wasn't before, but so that's the biggest thing. I just don't know if Salter has the full understanding of the offense to a point where he can run 80 plus plays on a night.
Right.
Where a guy like Bennett's got that experience, so he does. So I wouldn't be shocked if they, put in a package of 15 or 20 plays that they feel comfortable with Salter, and maybe let Bennett run some of the other base stuff. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes, and maybe just take baby steps with them. But again, I mean, UAB is, I know I'm talking to you guys, and I'm not blowing smoke here. UAB is a legit team. I mean, I think they're borderline top 25 with the talent you guys got coming back and the experience on that team. So, I mean, it's not like you're playing some cream puff, obviously, that you can, throw the freshman out there and figure it out on the fly. I mean, and obviously UAB's got a really good defense. So it's going to be a big challenge for Coach Freeze and the entire offense.
So John, my question was, I know you spoke of the transfers and you spoke of some of the backups having to fill prominent roles this year. Besides quarterback, what are those spots offensively and defensively you think that Liberty is having to answer those questions about?
Yeah, I mean, I think wide receiver is one that there's a lot of question marks going into the year. Demario Douglas, who had a big game last year. I think he went for over 100 yards against you guys. You may remember the name. And number 3, slot guy, 5'9", real shifty. I think he went, had a good game last year. He went for 97 yards Saturday night against Mississippi, or Southern Miss down in Mississippi, with 2 touchdowns. And
yeah, he had over 100. Yeah, he had a 70-yard catch in the UAB game last year. So
yeah,
UAB fans definitely remember Douglas.
He stood out on when I watched this game. He stood out on film. I know him.
Yeah, he's a stud. But other than him, it's a lot of question marks at receiver. I mean, there's 2 guys that have moved on, and one of them was in training camp with the Bears this summer and fall. Kevin Shaw, he's moved on. DJ Stubbs, another guy's moved on. And so there's a lot of question marks what's going on at receiver. And Liberty brought in an FCS transfer and Caleb Sneed. He had a couple catches Saturday night, and he's a big body guy on the outside. CJ Yarbrough is another guy. He was on the team 2 years ago as a freshman and made a lot of big plays. Kind of, Liberty had Antonio Gandy Golden was the big name then before Malik, and he was with the Washington football team, drafted by them and played with them a little bit. But CJ Yarbrough kind of was his backup and played good as a freshman. But then last year he walked away from football and was still a student at Liberty, but he got in the ROTC program. So, but now he's back and he played a lot, and he will play a lot this week too. But he's still a little raw after having a year away from football. So there's a lot of questions at receiver. Running back's pretty solid. They got a Hawaii transfer in Day Hunter, who they're expecting a lot out of. He played well this past week. Offensive line had been completely remade. That was one of the things that was, they didn't do too well last year. They gave up over 50 sacks on the year, which obviously is not good. So they brought in a new offensive line coach. They brought in, I think, 4 transfers on the offensive line. 3 of those. Wow. Yeah, 3 of those ended up
starters.
Well, 3 of them started this past week, left tackle, center, and right tackle, and then 2 returning starters. So it's a whole new look on the offensive line. They were a lot better, but still, weren't getting that push, especially on like first and second downs for the running game to get going. So, that's a quick overview of the offense. Defense, there's 2 transfers from Auburn that are, if not starting, they're in the 2 deep on the interior of the line. Defensive tackle is also a JUCO kid, Mike Smith Jr. at linebacker. He had an interception against Southern Miss this past weekend, and led the team in tackles. Also a corner transfer from Southern Utah, Kobe Singleton. He had an interception Saturday night. The defense is really the strength of the team, especially early on in the year, especially that defensive line. They're pride themselves in getting after the quarterback and also being able to stop the run. They had a couple of goal line stands there against Southern Miss. Did not the entire all 4 overtimes, which the third and the fourth, you're doing the 2-point conversions. They were held to a field goal attempt or did not score. Those 4 overtimes, they had 3 points. So that kind of shows you a little bit about the defense.
And John, I really like Treshawn Clark coming off the edge. I mean, that guy really pops off, kind of studying the film too.
Yeah, Treshawn, he's a NFL type guy, number 10, defensive end. He's a junior. He's been around. He's played a lot as a true freshman. He likes to get after the quarterback, which, Southern Miss, as you guys know, doesn't really have a quarterback at this point in time. I mean, Frank Gore was out there at the I don't know what they call it, the super back or whatever they call it. But,
right.
I mean, so Liberty didn't really – it changed the game plan. I mean, and so they didn't have a chance really to rush the passer because there was no passer. But, Treshawn Clark can get after the quarterback. Darrell Johnson on the other side, number 11. He's another guy that's got some NFL potential. They both like to get after the quarterback. And really, like I said, the defensive line is the strength, probably of the entire team, but certainly of the defense.
It's interesting you said that. I was watching the game. I came away impressed with you guys' defensive backfield. I know they gave away plays here and there, but that happens. That's gonna happen sometimes. But I like the play, the one interception that number 20, the cornerback. I thought he made a really good play, and I thought the D lineman number 11, I thought he made a really nice adjustment on his interception as well. But I was just really impressed with you guys' defensive backfield with the speed and how they were able to just stay with the receivers for the most part. And
I agree with what you're saying, and like I was kind of alluding to is Southern went, their starter Ty Keys got knocked out with our safety got him with, you could probably call it a cheap shot if you want to, a head-to-head, and knocked him out, probably had a concussion in the first half. And so the second half, they just went to Frank Gore with that super back and ran the ball. And so, Liberty stacked the box with 9 in the box and dared them to pass and put those 2 corners out there on the island on each side and just had them playing one-on-one on their receiver. And I mean, I think Southern, I'm looking at the box score here, they attempted 14 passes all night. And 8 of those was by Ty Keys in the first half. So, the last 2.5 quarters, they attempted, 6 passes. So, it changed. You won't see that type of same game plan against UAB this week. And it'll be, they typically, Liberty goes with 4 down linemen and 3 safeties. Well, they only played 2 safeties with 5 down linemen against Southern Miss. So it'll be a different game plan and a different look than, something more accustomed to what Liberty fans are used to seeing a Saturday night against UAB.
And John, is that concerning, to Liberty for their defense, kind of looking at the box score of the Southern Miss game? And I did get to catch bits and pieces of that game. But, I mean, giving up over 250 yards rushing to, a very one-dimensional, Southern Miss offense, as you just alluded to earlier with Frank Gore. I mean, is that concerning knowing that UAB loves to pound it with, those 2 guys in the backfield, Dwayne McBride and Jermaine Brown? Like, I mean –
Sure. No, that's a fair question. And I think, I don't really know how to answer the question at this point in time. I mean, it's a question mark. We'll have to see. I think we'll learn a lot Saturday night about the defense and the rushing defense. But I do think that it is going to be a strong defense all the way around against the pass and against the run. But yeah, I mean, they rushed for over 250 yards. I think they had 50 some odd carries though. So, I mean, a lot of that was Frank Gore. He broke a couple long runs, 40 or 50 yarder and got out into space and was able to do it. But also they also Southern Miss was able to dominate the time of possession. Liberty's defense was out on the field a long time. And a lot of that was due to Liberty, the offense, the struggles they were having as they were playing 3 quarterbacks and got to the third one before they could figure out what they were doing on offense, so to speak. But I mean, it is a little bit of a concern, but to be honest with you, I think it's going to end up being a strong suit for the team going forward. But again, I mean, I could be wrong, and we'll learn a lot this weekend against a more traditional type of offense.
Definitely. And I thought, I thought Liberty did a great job in last year's matchup and, kind of preventing big explosive runs for the UAB offense and kind of forced UAB to kind of be one dimensional and try to take deep shots. So that's what I look forward to most, is seeing, can UAB pound it on this Liberty defense, or is Liberty's defense going to step up like they did last year and, kind of force UAB to throw it downfield?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. And, if you're able to go back and watch any of that game against Southern Miss, is they were, Southern was able to drive the ball on occasion, whether it was penalties or explosive plays or whatever, to continue to move the chains and get down the field. But the defense kept standing strong down in the red zone and had, like I said, had a couple goal line stands, only gave up 3 points in 4 overtime periods, had 5 turnovers, 5 takeaways. So they were able to bend but not break, as the saying goes, right? So yeah, they might have given up some yards, and that's kind of been the defense's that's kind of been like their modus operandi the past few years is they might give up some yards between the 20s, but when you get down there in the red zone, they kind of stiffen and force you to a field goal attempt or come up with a key takeaway and kind of lead the country or get in the top 25 or so, top 15 of the country in scoring defense, and so that's kind of what they're aiming for, and they were pretty successful at that Saturday night.
So honestly, I think UAB in a sense is in the same position as you guys, where we kind of left our game, playing Alabama A&M, kind of left our game with a couple questions. I didn't know how we could gauge it. So from your perspective, I don't want to just box you in on a prediction. I want to see, what do you think would happen in the win and what that score would be, or in the same thing as in the loss? What do you think would happen in the game and what that score would be?
Sure. No, it's a good question. Be honest with you, Darren, I haven't gotten into it much here as we're talking Monday night. I'm not sure. Obviously, UAB is a 6.5 point favorite. I do think it's going to be a tough game for Liberty. I think that UAB should be favored at this point in time. I mean, just based on week 1 and where the two teams are at this point in time. The big wild card is Liberty and Caden Salter. I mean, is he going to be able to do what he did in the fourth quarter now that there's some film on him? Is he going to be able to do that over the course of the game? Is he going to be able to have enough mastery of the offense to do that over the course of the game and to put points up? Because obviously UAB's experienced and going to be able to move the ball and going to be able to score. I mean, that's just a matter of fact. And, so is he going to be able to do that? In my opinion, I think he will be able to do that. Will he be able to do it enough, consistently enough? I mean, he's going to have some big plays, some big moments. You've seen that in some of the highlights that he made in the fourth quarter against Southern Miss. But he's also going to have some bad plays. I mean, he's going to have some turnovers. He's going to have some misreads and some places where he's going to force the ball into or make a bad read or there's one time in the game this past week where, Hugh Freeze likes to do the RPO a lot. So he had an RPO and Caden turned to his left to hand the ball to the running back, but the running back went to the right. And, so then the play obviously broke down. He was able to pick up a first down in the play, but, is that going to, happen again? So that's the big question mark, I think, going into this game. And I think it's going to be a close game. I'd expect it to be decided in the fourth quarter, and it may be a turnover one way or the other that kind of decides it. But, it's hard for me to sit here and say that Liberty's going to win Saturday night when we really don't know what to expect out of a young quarterback probably making his first start. So I don't want to sit here and say UAB is going to win, but I understand why they're the favorite, and I do expect it to be a very close game. I think that, but like I said, to kind of answer your question is, and not to evade it, I'm not trying to, is if Salter is what Liberty fans think and hope he is, and he's able to be consistent and not make too many boneheaded plays or mistakes, I think he'll put Liberty in a position to win, and it's a matter of not can he do it. And as a Liberty fan, I would like to lean to say, yes, he can, and yes, Liberty will win by 1 score. But if he's unable to, then I would think that it would go the other way, and UAB is able to score. And if he has too many turnovers against a good team like UAB, or too many bad plays, mistakes, it could get to where it's a comfortable lead for UAB, where they win by 2 scores, 10 to 17 points or something like that.
All right, that's a good answer.
All right, well, John, I know we're keeping you a little over than what I said, but I've just got one more question, and
Sure.
I alluded to it earlier that I do think Liberty is going to come in and dominate Conference USA. next year. But what's the general morale of, Liberty Flames fan base? Like, are they excited about joining Conference USA? Are they not as excited because, joining a conference, you have to, limit your schedule now where you can only play, 3 or 4 non-conference games a year as opposed to picking your whole schedule. But what's the general morale of the fan base?
Sure, and that's kind of a loaded question. We could talk about that for the next 30 minutes if you wanted to, but yeah, I mean, try to boil it down to you in a couple minutes. But yeah, I mean, I think the majority of the fans are excited about it. They know that, especially with this college football playoff expanding to 12
Yes.
now, with 6 conference championships or champions getting automatic bids, and so that means at least 1 G5, maybe 2 on some years get an automatic bid. So that certainly puts a team like Liberty, who hopefully can go in and compete for championships in the CUSA immediately, in that conversation should they win 10 or 11 games in a year and maybe pull off a P5 upset or 2 in a season. So yeah, I mean, I think it's something that overall the fan base is excited about. There are some that don't like it, and I understand where they're coming from, because if you look at Liberty's schedule this year, they've got teams like BYU and Virginia Tech, which, Virginia Tech's, an hour and a half, 2 hours down the road here from Lynchburg. So that's a big game, big rival coming into town, playing at Liberty in Lynchburg. And so is BYU. I mean, you're not going to get those type games playing in a, I think we can all say a watered down Conference USA moving forward, where you're playing Western Kentucky and New Mexico State and Louisiana Tech, et cetera. So it is a little bit of a catch-22 where you have to give up some things, some of these, attractive games, but at the same time, you also gain something by being able to compete for conference championships, being able to, possibly put yourself in special years into a position to compete for, a CFP spot possibly down the road. And so I think ultimately this is kind of the next stepping stone for Liberty as a program. And we talked about that some last year, I believe, on the podcast with you guys, is Liberty is a young program. I mean,
right.
Just the 4th year in the FBS, and the school was founded in 1971, so it hasn't been around that long, and has made a lot of strides during that time. But so I think this is kind of, this first time playing an FBS conference, I think it'll help a lot of the other sports as well. If you're not talking football, men's basketball will be a big jump up in competition, and same thing with baseball and some of the other sports. So I think all together, all said, is the fan base is generally excited about the move and think it's kind of the next step up. And hopefully one day we can keep on moving and get to an AAC or we never know what's going to happen with college sports, but
right.
Get to that next level and continue to kind of build this athletic program, kind of one step at a time. And that's kind of, I think the move to Conference USA continues that path and is just kind of the next step in that path.
Right. Well, John, we just thank you again so much for coming on the Blazer Victory podcast again this year. And guys, definitely go to aseaofred.com and they've got a bunch of stuff on their website. I believe I've contributed to an article that's coming out this week. We'll be on their podcast. They pump out great content, context just every week, whether it's basketball, football. Give A Sea of Red a follow on Twitter as well, at A Sea of Red. But John, just thank you so much for coming on. And I hope, we can maybe keep this non-conference series, going forward in years to come with Liberty and UAB.
Yeah, John, Darian, thanks so much for having me on. Look forward to the game this week, and I'd love to see this series continue. I think UAB is a great program. I enjoyed my trip down to Birmingham last year, and hope some of the Blazer fans coming up this week will have a nice, pleasurable experience as well. And yeah, love to keep on playing in the future.
Yeah, it's like a budding rivalry in a sense. If we give it some time and let it keep growing, because we're both improving programs at the same time. So I think we're kind of on the same trajectory. I want to see it continue going.
Definitely.
Yeah, I agree with you and look forward to it. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you guys having me on.
No problem, John. Thank you so much. And guys, Darian and I will be back late Saturday night to give you guys an instant reaction to the UAB Liberty game. But as always, guys, go Blazers.